Gail Norton was born in Wichita, Kansas, but always knew that living in the West, not the Midwest, was her destiny. She always had the urge to keep moving, and when she was 5, she and her parents did make a big move to Thornton, Colorado. Gail's first career goal was to become a cowpoke, and she always wanted a horse. However, that dream eluded her, even as she embraced the Western way of life as lead singer in a country western band, and then as a proud campfire girl, where she soon realized she hated going door to door selling candy, especially with no horse to get her there. Later in life, Gail tried some variations of her equine ambitions. First, with a camel. Too mean. Next, with a snake. No saddle. And even with an elephant. Although her way of riding didn't quite fit the standard, the elephant would become an important part of her career. Animals have always remained an important part of her life. And while she has tried all kinds of other forms of transportation, when she finally had a chance to realize her childhood dream, things went sadly awry.
So Gail and I had an opportunity to be in the Rose Bowl parade through Take Pride in America. Very fun event. We were out there with our horses at dark 30, lined up ready to start the parade. And at one point she said, "You know, he just stepped on my foot." But she didn't say anything more than that. And so we just got on our horses and we rode down the Colorado Boulevard parade route, and we got to the end of the parade and people were doing photos and, wanting to visit with her, and Gail is usually so good about that. And she suddenly looked at me and she said, "Well, I think I broke my foot or my toe." She said, "I'm in excruciating pain." Throughout this entire parade, she had never said anything about her foot hurting. She had never said she was in pain, but we had a wonderful time anyway, and she smiled and was her usual gracious self, notwithstanding the fact that she had broken a toe.
Getting back to her formative years, Gail changed her focus from riding the range to reading, writing, and arithmetic. She graduated salutatorian in her class from Thornton High School. She whizzed through the University of Denver undergrad program in just 3 years, first in Mass Comm and then poli-sci. Her job as a reporter for the DU Clarion gave a somewhat subtle hint to her future political leanings. Scoring a perfect 800 on the LSAT, Gail went on to law school at the University of Denver College of Law. She showed her great talent for leadership and inspiration with her law school study group. At DU, Gail's favorite professor was Andy Popper, who taught transportation law and antitrust. The year after she graduated, Professor Popper left DU, and Gail filled in as interim faculty director of DU's transportation law program. She remembers it being a challenge during this period of transportation deregulation. She would have to tell students, "Remember what we learned last week? It's just been repealed." Next, Gail embarked on her decades-long public service career, first at Mountain States Legal Foundation, where she represented Western state ranchers and defended Colorado's automobile emissions program. In 1983, she was selected as a National Fellow at Stanford University's Hoover Institution and enjoyed living in San Francisco. By the mid-'80s, she switched coasts when she was appointed to several positions in the Reagan administration. Then, in 1987, Gail came home to Denver to begin a solo law practice. In 1990, she was elected as the first female Attorney General of Colorado. During her 8-year tenure, she argued 2 cases before the United States Supreme Court. She flirted with politics in a run for the U.S. Senate in 1996, but her ambition was thwarted by a horse veterinarian. Foiled again by the horse. On the day before Christmas in 2000, Gail got a call from the president's office asking her to interview for the job of Secretary of the Interior. She thought she didn't have much of a chance, but decided to fly to D.C. to have an interesting life experience. After an intense vetting process, she landed the job with a 3/4 majority vote in the Senate. Gale established a policy of cooperative conservation during her term at Interior. She helped forge the Colorado River Compact and the Healthy Forest Initiative. She chaired the National Park Foundation and the Migratory Bird Conservation Commission. That handsome fellow next to First Lady Laura Bush is Gale's husband, John Hughes. John and Gale met at a Libertarian Party function. Gale was coordinating volunteers for the Libertarian Party events, so she made sure that John was put on her team so they could get acquainted.
The very first Libertarian I'd ever met was Gale, and we got along, and we decided that it would be work as a team to do things like pass out literature for our presidential candidate. At that time, our presidential candidate was Ed Clark. So Gale and I were going to some of the rougher parts of town, passing out door-to-door literature, canvassing for the Clark campaign. And later on, I found out it wasn't just by accident. They could have split us up into teams differently, but I guess evidently Gale was campaigning to get me on her team. That was perfectly okay with me, too.
Despite her long career as a public servant, with much of it in Washington, Gale has remained that little Colorado cowpoke at heart. While serving as the Attorney General, she took on the Western icon known as the Marlboro Man, representing Colorado in the tobacco industry settlement. She even recruited the ultimate cowboy, Clint Eastwood, to work with her Department of Interior Take Pride in America program.
Suddenly, Gale and I were standing there with a glass of wine, and the next thing we knew, we looked around, and Clint had just walked up the stairs and walked into the room, and suddenly we had Clint Eastwood at our small little gathering. And I said to Gale, whatever else we do in our careers from here on, it's all downhill. This is as good as it gets.
The post-Washington years have been anything but quiet for Gale. She's held positions at Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck, been the general counsel for Royal Dutch Shell as they develop oil shale in western Colorado, serves on the board of directors of the American Transmission Company, and continues her passion for cooperative conservation as she and John explore the world. President Bush could not join us here this evening, but he did send a note of personal congratulations. He and the First Lady also invited Gale to come down to the Crawford Ranch to ride with them, provided Gale wears, quote, steel-toed boots before getting anywhere near the horses. From cowpoke to cabinet member, Gail Norton has excelled in all areas of her career, and all of us at Denver Law are very proud to honor her this evening. Please help us salute the recipient of the 2014 DU Law Stars Outstanding Alumni Award, Gail Norton.